What happens when a prince who preaches mental health awareness completely loses his composure on live television? Tonight we're diving into the shocking clash between Prince Harry and Stephen Colbert that left audiences stunned and the Duke of Sussex storming off the set in fury. Before we get into this wild story, make sure to hit that subscribe button and drop a comment below with your thoughts on celebrity meltdowns. The Late Show with Stephen Colbert was supposed to be another routine promotional appearance for Prince Harry. He was there to discuss his latest mental health initiative, a cause he'd championed for years. The studio audience was packed with fans eager to hear from the royal who'd stepped away from tradition to speak his truth. But what started as a friendly chat quickly spiraled into one of the most uncomfortable television moments in recent memory. Stephen Colbert, known for his sharp wit and pointed questions, welcomed Harry with his usual charm. "Your Royal Highness? Or should I say just Harry now? I never know the proper protocol when interviewing former working royals." Harry's smile tightened slightly. "Just Harry is fine, Stephen. I think we're past all that formality, don't you think?" "Well, speaking of being past things," Colbert leaned forward with that mischievous glint in his eye, "you've been very vocal about mental health awareness, which is admirable. But some critics say it's rich coming from someone who grew up with every privilege imaginable. How do you respond to people who think you don't really understand struggle?" The question hung in the air like a loaded weapon. Harry's jaw clenched almost imperceptibly, but he maintained his media-trained composure. "Stephen, I think that's exactly the kind of thinking we need to move past. Mental health doesn't discriminate based on your bank account or your title. I've experienced real trauma, real pain." "Oh, absolutely," Colbert nodded, but his tone carried an edge. "Though your trauma involves things like flying first class instead of private jets, right? Or having to use the smaller palace?" A nervous chuckle rippled through the audience, but Harry wasn't laughing. His hands gripped the armrests of his chair. "You know what, Stephen? This is exactly the problem. Everyone thinks they know my story, but you have no idea what I've been through." "Help me understand then," Colbert pressed, sensing weakness like a shark smelling blood. "Walk me through a typical day of struggle in your life. Does it start with your personal chef making the wrong type of organic eggs?" The audience laughed louder this time, but Harry's face was darkening. "You think this is funny? You think mental health is a joke?" "I think inconsistency is funny," Colbert shot back, his voice rising slightly. "I think someone who lectures about privilege while living in a $16 million mansion might be missing some self-awareness." Harry leaned forward aggressively. "You don't know what you're talking about. You have no idea what my family put me through, what the media put me through. The constant attacks, the lies, the invasion of privacy." "Right. The invasion of privacy." Colbert's eyebrows shot up. "Is that before or after you wrote a tell-all book sharing every intimate family detail? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you invaded your own privacy pretty thoroughly." The temperature in the studio seemed to drop 10 degrees. Harry's voice became dangerously quiet. "That book was about healing. It was about sharing my truth." "Your truth," Colbert repeated mockingly. "See, that's interesting phrasing. Not the truth, but your truth. Like truth is subjective now. Like facts don't matter as long as they fit your narrative." Harry's hands were shaking now, though whether from anger or something else was unclear. "Stephen, I came here in good faith, to talk about mental health, to help people who are struggling. But all you want to do is attack me." "I'm not attacking you, Harry. I'm asking you questions. You know, like journalists used to do before everyone decided feelings were more important than facts." Colbert's voice dripped with sarcasm. "Tell me, when you're helping all these struggling people with their mental health, do you charge them your usual speaking fee of $200,000? The question hit like a physical blow. Harry's entire body tensed, and for a moment it looked like he might actually leap out of his chair. "How dare you question my commitment to helping people? I've dedicated my life to service." "Service?" Colbert laughed harshly. You call abandoning your duties and moving to California service? You call selling out your family for Netflix money service? Because where I come from, we have a different word for that. Stop, Harry's voice cracked, with emotion. Just stop. You don't understand anything about duty or service or sacrifice. You sit here in your comfortable little studio making jokes while real people are suffering. And you sit in your mansion making millions off that suffering. Colbert fired back without missing a beat. At least I'm honest about what I do for a living. The audience had gone completely silent now, sensing they were witnessing something unprecedented. Harry was breathing heavily, his composure finally starting to fracture after years of media training. You want honesty, Stephen? Here's some honesty. People like you are exactly what's wrong with the world. You tear people down for entertainment. You mock pain and struggle because it gets you ratings. People like me? Colbert's eyes narrowed dangerously. You mean working-class people who earned everything they have? People who didn't inherit their platform or their wealth? Yeah, I can see how that would be threatening to someone like you. Harry shot to his feet so suddenly that his chair nearly toppled backward. Someone like me? Someone like me? You have no idea what someone like me goes through every single day. The studio fell into stunned silence as Harry towered over his chair, his chest heaving with barely contained rage. Colbert remained seated, but his posture had shifted, becoming more alert, more predatory. The audience could sense they were about to witness something that would be talked about for years. Sit down, Harry, Colbert said quietly, his voice carrying a warning. You're making a scene. Making a scene? Harry's voice cracked with indignation. I'm making a scene? You've been attacking me from the moment I sat down, and I'm making a scene? I've been doing my job, Colbert replied coolly, which is asking questions that your usual sycophantic interviewers are too scared to ask. Now sit down before security has to escort you out. The threat hung in the air like smoke from a gun. Harry's face went through a series of emotions, shock, rage, disbelief, before settling into something darker. You wouldn't dare. Try me. Colbert's smile was razor-sharp. This is my house, Your Highness, and in my house, guests show respect, or they leave. Harry slowly lowered himself back into his chair, but his entire body language had changed. Gone was any pretense of the polished royal spokesman. This was a man on the edge, his privilege and entitlement laid bare for all to see. You know what your problem is, Stephen? You're jealous. You're jealous that I was born into something you could never achieve. The audience gasped audibly. Colbert's eyebrows shot up in genuine surprise. Wow, there it is. The mask finally comes off. Tell me, how does it feel to say what you really think about us common folk? Don't twist my words, Harry snapped, but the damage was done. I didn't mean it like that. Oh, you meant it exactly like that. Colbert leaned back in. His chair suddenly relaxed, like a cat that had cornered a mouse. You meant that I, a working-class kid from South Carolina who worked his way up through comedy clubs and small television stations, could never achieve what you achieved by simply being born. Is that mental health awareness, Harry? Looking down, on people who actually earned their success? Harry's face was flushed red now, sweat beading on his forehead under the studio lights. You're twisting everything I say. This is exactly what the media does. They take your words and weaponize them. I'm not twisting anything. I'm literally repeating what you just said 30 seconds ago. The cameras caught it. The audience heard it, and millions of people are watching right now. Colbert gestured toward the cameras. You just told America that someone like me could never achieve what you achieved by winning the birth lottery. That's not, I didn't, Harry stammered, his media training finally abandoning him completely. You're being deliberately obtuse. I meant that you don't understand the pressures, the expectations. The pressures of what? Having unlimited resources? Never worrying about paying rent or buying groceries? Having teams of people whose job it is to make your life easier? Colbert's voice was rising now, matching Harry's energy. Tell me about these crushing pressures, Your Highness. Stop calling me that. Harry's voice was practically a shout now. I renounced all of that. I walked away from the titles, from the money, from the privilege. Did you, though? Colbert tilted his head like he was genuinely curious. Because, last I checked, you're still living off that privilege. Your entire brand is built on being a royal who walked away. Without the title, you're just another rich kid with daddy issues. The words hit Harry like a physical slap. His mouth opened and closed soundlessly for a moment before the rage finally found its voice. How dare you? How dare you talk about my father? You know nothing about my relationship with my family. I know what you've shared publicly, Colbert shrugged. You've made your family issues everyone's business. You've monetized your daddy issues and turned your personal trauma into a media empire. And now you want to lecture me about crossing lines? Harry was on his feet again, this time pointing an accusatory finger at Colbert. You're sick. You're actually sick. Taking someone's pain and trauma and using it for entertainment. This is exactly why mental health stigma exists. People like you make it a punchline. People like me? Colbert stood up as well, matching Harry's aggressive posture. Let me tell you about people like me, Harry. People like me work 3 jobs to pay for college. People like me lose sleep wondering how to pay medical bills. People like me don't have the luxury of processing our trauma in $16 million mansions with teams of therapists and publicists. You think money solves everything? Harry shot back, his voice breaking with emotion. You think privilege means pain doesn't exist? Well, let me tell you something, Stephen. Some of us have lost more than you'll ever have. Lost what exactly? Colbert's voice dropped to a dangerous whisper. Your allowance? Your security detail? Your mother's jewelry? Because last I checked, the only thing you've lost is the respect of your own family. The studio went dead silent. Even the camera operators seemed to freeze. Harry's face went white, then red, then white again. When he spoke, his voice was barely human, more like a wounded animal. Don't you ever talk about my mother. Why not? Colbert pressed, sensing the kill. You do. Constantly. Every interview, every speech, every paid appearance. Your mother's memory is your meal ticket, Harry. You've turned her death into a career. What happened next shocked everyone in the studio. Harry grabbed his water glass and hurled it across the space between them. Colbert ducked as the glass shattered against the backdrop behind his chair, water and glass fragments spraying everywhere. The audience screamed, some diving for cover, others pulling out their phones to record. You bastard! Harry roared, his voice echoing through the studio. You absolute bastard! How dare you talk about my mother like that? Security guards were already moving, but Colbert waved them off, his eyes never leaving Harry's face. There it is, he said quietly, his voice cutting through the chaos. The real Prince Harry, not the mental health advocate, not the humanitarian, just an entitled brat who throws things when he doesn't get his way. Harry was breathing like he'd run. A marathon, his hands shaking with adrenaline and rage. I'm done. I'm done with this, with you, with all of it. The broken glass crunched under the security guards' feet as they positioned themselves strategically around the set. Harry stood in the middle of it all like a cornered animal, his chest heaving, his carefully cultivated image in ruins. Colbert remained unnaturally calm, which only seemed to infuriate Harry more. You're done? Colbert asked, his voice dripping with mock concern. But we haven't even gotten to the good stuff yet. I was just about to ask about your wife's political ambitions. Leave her out of this. Harry's voice was raw, strained from shouting. This is between you and me. Is it, though? Colbert tilted his head thoughtfully. Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like everything you do is a team effort. Every interview, every appearance, every carefully orchestrated revelation about your family. Tell me, does she write your talking points? or do you have people? For that? Harry's hands clenched into fists at his sides. You're pathetic. You're a pathetic little man who tears people down because you can't build anything yourself, says the man who just threw a tantrum on national television. Colbert laughed, but there was no humor in it. You know what's really pathetic, Harry? You had everything. Literally everything. Respect, admiration, a platform to actually help people. And you threw it all away because you couldn't handle being second fiddle to your brother. This has nothing to do with William, Harry snapped, but his voice wavered. Doesn't it? Colbert pressed. Because every word out of your mouth for the past 3 years has been about how unfair it was that he got to be king and you didn't. Every interview, every book chapter, every paid speech. It's all just one long complaint about not being the favorite. Harry's composure finally shattered. Completely. You know what? You're right. You're absolutely right. I should have been king. I would have been a better king than William ever will be. I'm the one who actually cares about people. I'm the one who understands struggle and sacrifice. The audience sat in stunned silence as Harry continued his rant, his voice getting higher and more unhinged with each word. Williams never had an original thought in his life. He just follows orders, does what he's told, smiles and waves like a trained monkey. But me, I actually stand for something. I actually fight for what's right. And what's right is throwing glasses at talk show hosts, Colbert asked quietly. Harry spun around, having apparently forgotten about the thrown glass in his fury. You pushed me to that. You attacked my mother, my wife, my family. What did you expect? I expected the mental health advocate to advocate for mental health, Colbert replied. Instead, I got a spoiled brat having a meltdown because someone asked him hard questions. Hard questions. Harry laughed bitterly. Those weren't questions, they were attacks. Personal, vicious attacks designed to humiliate me. They were the same questions any decent journalist would ask someone who's made millions selling their family's private business, Colbert shot back. The fact that you can't handle basic accountability says everything about your character. Harry began pacing back and forth like a caged tiger, his movements erratic and unpredictable. My character? My character. I've spent my entire adult life serving others. Military service, charity work, raising awareness for causes that matter. What have you done besides make jokes? I've never claimed to be anything other than what I am, Colbert replied evenly. I don't lecture people about mental health while having public breakdowns. I don't preach about privacy while selling tell-all books. I don't talk about service while abandoning my duties. Abandoning my duties? Harry whirled to face him. I was never allowed to fulfill my duties. Everything I tried to do was blocked, criticized, undermined. They wanted me to be a silent ornament, a spare part in case something happened to the heir. So you took your ball and went home, Colbert nodded. Very mature, very service-oriented. Harry's face contorted with rage. You have no idea what it's like to live your entire life in someone else's shadow. To have every word you say, every move you make, compared to someone else. To be told from birth that your only purpose is to be a backup plan. Boo-hoo, Colbert said flatly. You know what most people call that? Having a job, having responsibilities, having to work as part of a team instead of being the star of the show. This is insane, Harry threw his hands up in exasperation. I come here to talk about mental health, about helping people, and you turn it into a character assassination. I asked you questions about your public statements and actions, Colbert corrected. The fact that those questions revealed your character isn't my fault. Harry stopped pacing and fixed Colbert with a stare full of pure hatred. You know what your problem is, Stephen. You're jealous, not just of my success, but of my courage. I had the guts to walk away from a system that was corrupt and toxic. I chose freedom over fear. You chose money over family, Colbert replied without hesitation. You chose fame over duty. You chose your own feelings over everyone else's well-being. And now you're standing in my studio having a public breakdown because someone finally called. You on it? The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Harry stared at Colbert for a long moment, his chest rising and falling rapidly. When he finally spoke, his voice was deadly quiet. I'm leaving. Yes, you are, Colbert agreed. Security will show you out. I don't need security, Harry snarled, ripping off his microphone and throwing it on the floor. I can find my own way out of this dump. He stormed toward the exit, but Colbert's voice stopped him cold. Harry! Harry turned back, his face a mask of fury and humiliation. Next time you want to lecture people about mental health, Colbert said quietly, maybe work on your own first. The silence that followed was deafening. Harry stood frozen for a moment, his mouth working soundlessly, before he finally found his voice one last time. Go to hell, Stephen! With that, Prince Harry, Duke of Sussex, former working royal and self-proclaimed mental health advocate, stormed off the set of The Late Show, leaving behind a studio full of shocked witnesses and footage that would be replayed for years to come. The cameras kept rolling as Colbert turned back to his audience, straightened his tie, and said with perfect comedic timing, well, that's mental health awareness for you, folks. And there you have it, the shocking meltdown that ended with Prince Harry being kicked off Stephen Colbert's show. What started as a routine promotional appearance turned into one of the most uncomfortable television moments in recent memory, revealing a side of the Duke that his carefully managed public image had kept hidden. Make sure to subscribe for more celebrity meltdown stories and comment below. Do you think Harry was justified in his anger, or did he prove Colbert's point about his character?